everyone, welcome to Guide and Grow TV. I'm Sylvia Ariton, and today we're going to talk about the concept of follow the child in Montessori and how sometimes this common terminology can be misunderstood. So what do we actually mean by follow the child? Some people might think, oh, just let the children do whatever it is that they want to do. We're following the child. Well, actually, there are 2 points that I wanted to discuss today in terms of follow the child. Firstly, following the child in terms of observation and actually following their interests, their needs, and really understanding children. The second point is also that freedom of allowing children to kind of take the lead and following their interests also comes within limits. So Maria Montessori always spoke about freedom within limits. And that will be my second point when we talk about follow the child. So firstly, observation. Now, a lot of the time we see people asking the question, what activities are suitable for my 2-year-old? What can I interact my 10-month-old with? And questions that come up like that. Now, if you truly follow the child, it really is about stepping back for a moment and taking yourself back out of that equation and really looking and observing the child's interests, their needs, and what it is that they're going through developmentally. So the way we do that is by carefully watching the child when they are interacting with certain toys or activities at home and seeing what it is that they're interested in. So there might be some patterning happen, and this could be a case of carrying a little notebook with you and just keeping it with you so that anytime you do see your child interacting with something, you can take some notes and jot down to see if there's any type of schemas that are occurring. So the schemas of play or sensitive periods, what Maria Montessori explains, are periods of time where a child is really interested in that particular thing and pretty much nothing else. So it could be a sensitive period for tiny objects and where you see your child always looking at those tiny little things when you've got all these amazing toys and activities sitting on the shelf. So that's actually an interest and a development that they're going through at that moment. So it is important to foster that. So when we say follow the child, it really means understanding what it is that they need, following their interests and seeing where they're at developmentally. And those could be anything from fine motor skills, gross motor skills, their social interaction, that interaction with other people, and so on and so forth. So when we mean follow the child, it really means setting up the environment and preparing the space so that children do have all of those developmentally appropriate and interest to them in their space. One quote that Maria Montessori said, which relates to this, is, "I observed little children, I sensed their needs, and I tried to fulfill them." This is what's called the Montessori method. What a powerful statement that is. So try and follow your child's interest. Take a step back of what you might think is an expectation or judgment. Sometimes we think, oh, they've picked up that toy again. Why don't they pick something else? Or, oh, that's so noisy. Why wouldn't they, choose something more quiet? That's ourselves getting in the way. So sometimes we just have to, and I know it's hard not to interfere or interact with your child when they're doing something, but just take a step back and see if there's something that you can observe that will lead you to their interests. We also do have an ebook that will be linked below where you can see some ideas around and interests that will typically develop in those areas or those ages that might be helpful to you. But observation is the key. Follow the child. Okay, so the second point, follow the child. A lot of people, when we say follow the child, they think let them do what they want. Well, actually, no, that's not the case. When we talk about freedom and the child being free, we respect the fact that the child will show us their interest and we follow their lead in terms of where they're at developmentally and really observing them. However, it doesn't mean that they can just do what they want, especially when things are not safe and other situations which I'll be discussing. When we talk about freedom within limits, what do we actually mean? Maria Montessori always taught us that freedom occurs within 3 limits, and these limits are, firstly, respect for oneself, respect for others, and respect for the environment. So the child is free within these limits. Now, these limits are really important, and it is really important to instill these limits onto your child. So the first one, respect for oneself. Respect for oneself means self-care, having respect for themselves, dressing, self-care in brushing their teeth, brushing their hair, looking after themselves, washing their hands, toilet learning, all of those things, being able to eat, to feed themselves, prepare some food, all the practical life falls into that category. Respect for others. So our interactions with other people, respecting people's space, respecting their turn taking, the way you speak to them, the way you interact with other people, having, those values and morals that really underlie the interactions with other people. So respecting others. And then the third thing is respecting the environment. So respecting everything around them, respecting the activities that they interact with, so if a child then is throwing something across the room, clearly that's not respecting that activity. So then that activity will be placed somewhere else, and then the child will be able to choose something else to do. So the freedom that the child does have comes within those limits, and those limits are really important to understand and implement. And I do have a video on Montessori and discipline, which explains all of the freedoms within limits and how to actually instill them. So you'll find some great tools and strategies on how you can actually implement those healthy boundaries around following the child and giving them the freedom that they deserve. I hope that's helped. If you have any comments, like, share, and comment below, and I'll speak to you next time.